Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on data sharing and to attract investors. So my name is Lotta Pirtima. I'm the project officer at Ocean Energy Europe, who coordinates Egypt Ocean, the European technology and innovation platform for ocean energy that gathers together the ocean energy sector and promotes the sector on its way to industrial rollout. Egypt Ocean is coordinated by Ocean Energy Europe with the support of University of Edinburgh, Wavec Offshore Renewables and Technalia. And today we have 3 presentations with some time for a Q&A, so you can write your questions at any time in the questions box on the right-hand side of your screen. And I apologize already if you hear some background noise. It seems that someone is trimming their bushes right up outside my apartment, so sorry for that. But into today's topic. So today's webinar will discuss the questions of what kind of data should an ocean energy developer share with investors and why share that data. So accelerating the development of the sector requires some degree of sharing experience and information, but at the same time, fostering that competitive European sector and European companies in this emerging supply chain requires, of course, intellectual property and confidentiality. So in order to attract those investors, while at the same time protecting IP, the optimal balance between open data and that confidentiality has to be found. So today our speakers from different sides of the equation share their own experience, and the purpose is not to find a definite answer to this rather tricky question, but to have an open discussion here with all of you. So feel free to write any comments you have in the questions, and we can also unmute you if you prefer taking the floor. I have a couple of slides I wanted to show you. Just bear with me. There you go. So if you would like to get the slides and the recording, please email me. You can see my email address, or you can use the info@Egypt Ocean email address as well. The recording and the slides will be on our website probably next week, but if you need them already, then feel free to contact me. That's okay. And before we go into the presentations, I will let José Luis Villate, the Offshore Renewable Energy Director at Technalia, to give some background on the topic that is based on the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda. And José Luis is the co-author of that report. So I will give the word to José Luis.
Thank you, Lotta.
Yes, I'm giving you the presenter rates. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
The floor is yours.
I guess that you can see now the presentation.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Lotta, for the introduction. As Lotta said, I'm going to make a very short introduction of the SRA, the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, where the topic today is one of the priority topics that the sector defined. Okay? So the SRA is a reference document for the whole ocean energy sector and gives a specific input to public funded bodies, including member states and also the European Commission. For example, we have seen that in one public draft of the first calls of Horizon Europe, we identify some inputs from this document that are part of the first calls for ocean energy. The report was not produced from scratch. It was an update of the previous strategic agenda produced in 2016. And the main driver for this update was reaching ocean energy commercialization. So with this proposal, the Egypt Ocean partners try to involve as many sector stakeholders as possible. The SRA was officially launched last year in June and is a public document that you can consult. This strategic research and innovation agenda has been developed in a context where ocean energy can play a crucial role in meeting the European Green Deal objectives and a 100% decarbonized energy system. Different European strategies are behind this objective, such as, for example, the offshore renewable strategy that was published by the European Commission in November last year. The SRA includes a chapter which quantifies the effort on research, technology development, and innovation needed to move forward this sector. The main message is that 1 billion euros should be mobilized from 2021 to 2025, from which 1/3 would come from private investment. Due to the stage of development of ocean energy, we believe that 70% of this funding should be devoted for demonstration, pre-commercial, and industrial rollout actions. The challenge areas represent a set of research and development fields that the ocean energy sector has identified as a most worth of investment during the next period of 4 or 5 years. After a pre-research exercise, the ocean energy industry and research professionals agreed that the design and validation of ocean energy devices is the most urgent and crucial area to focus on. However, there are other challenge areas that have to be addressed in coordination, not isolated, including foundation, connection, mooring, logistic and marine operation, and of course, the topic that we have today, that is data collection and sharing. The same prioritization exercise was conducted for the identification of a number of priority topics per challenge area, according to the opportunity for the sector in Europe and the urgency to be overcome. For each priority topic, the SRA defined its scope, applicability, wave, tidal, others, ocean energy technologies, specific actions to be carried out, expected impact of deploying these actions, the technology maturity in terms of TRLs, and indication about the budget required, giving information or suggestion about number of projects and size of these projects. The webinar today is focused on the topic Open Data Repository for Ocean Energy, which suggests potential actions such as the development of tools for ocean energy data management, apply data technologies and experience from other sectors, and generate specific knowledge for ocean energy. We think that the main expected impact of this action would be to provide credibility on ocean energy technologies and attract investors. That is the topic we have today. Finding a balance, like Lotta said, between protecting competitiveness and intellectual property, as well as providing the benefit of sharing that data. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to give back the floor to Lotta and to start with the 3 presentations we have today. Thank you.
Thank you, José Luis. I would now like to introduce our first speaker, Gian Maria Sannino, who is the head of the Climate Modeling Laboratory and Impacts at ENEA and the chair of the Set Plan Implementation Working Group for Ocean Energy. And so he will give some insights on why sharing data is important for the sector. The floor is yours, Gian Maria.
Thank you, Lotta. Thank you, ATP Ocean, for inviting me and actually inviting the Set Plan to this very exciting workshop. I will try to share my screen. I don't know if you see something.
Yes, we can see it now, so you can just go to the perfect. Good. Yeah.
So let me just start saying that I will just talk about the Set Plan and how sharing the data are important to attract investors, but also to drive the European policies for the ocean energy sector. So it's a twofold, let's say, presentation. So let me start first to just give you some basic information about the Set Plan. So, as you know, the world is undergoing a radical transformation in the way energy is produced and used, and shifting to, let's say, a cleaner and more efficient energy system. European countries together with industry, research center, and the European Commission, of course, are working together to speed up this transformation. And this is done through the SET plan. The SET plan is the European Strategic Energy Technological Plan. That is a sort of technological pillar of the European Union's energy climate policies. And it started in 2008. So in other words, the SET plan is the key tool for the European Commission for aligning the European and national clean energy research and innovation priorities. As you can see from this figure, actually, the SET plan has identified 6 priorities, or we can say also 6, let's say, ambitions. One of these ambitions is to become the world's #1 in renewable energy. And to meet this goal, the European Union must lead the developments of the next generation of renewable energy technologies. Among these technologies, the European Union has also identified the ocean energy, and this is good for us. I mean, that we work on the ocean energy sector. So for the European Commission, ocean energy must be developed to become one of the leading renewable energies in Europe. So let me just give you some information about how the European Commission are, I mean, following our progresses. So we started in 2017, and actually between 2017 and 2018, a working group composed by focal point representative of the member states, European Commission, and the main ocean energy stakeholders from Europe, have working together to identify the main actions to boost the ocean energy sector. And in March 2018 has been published the first implementation plan at European level for the ocean energy. This implementation plan has set targets and action to boost the ocean energy sector. Among the, let's say, the targets, we have identified the LCOE for the ocean energy, and we just separate the tidal energy from the wave energy technologies. And as you can see, the targets in 2030 for the tidal stream and in 2035 for the wave energy are quite challenging. So we have something like 10 cents per kilowatt hour at the end of 2035 for the wave energy. So it's quite ambitious. But what we have done actually is also to identify some specific action. One of these action is, I mean, the action have been divided in 3 main areas: technical action, financial action, and environmental action. And here you see in these slides what are the action. Actually, the technical action have been identified to ensure the support for all TRL for wave and tidal devices. The financial action is to ensure investment and insurance support funds are available to support the development of the sector. And also the environmental action is to share knowledge and safety environment matters among the member states. For the implementation of the plan, have been created an implementation working group. The implementation working group is composed by the Directorate General for Research and Innovation from the Commission, 14 member states. So you see here the blue and the light blue are the member states that are, I mean, around the table of this implementation working group, and ATIP Ocean, the European Energy Research Alliance for the ocean energy, and Ocean Energy Europe. So this is the working group, and now the working group is led by Enea in Italy and from Wave Energy Scotland. Well, all the system is also supported by the OceanSat, that is a European project, H2020 project, that is, I mean, working to assist the implementation working group to deliver the target and the action that have been identified in the action plan. This is the project. Actually, it's a very, let's say, small project in terms of budget, because, I mean, the project is working specifically on some let's say, thematic. One of these is also to assist the implementation working group for the realization of the set plan implementation plan, but it's also to monitoring the, let's say, the progress of the sector. This is very important. To do that, what we do within the Ocean Set and the implementation working group is to collect annual information about the projects at member state level that will be shared among the member state and, most important, with the European Commission. So this is what we do every year since 2019. So we gather information on ocean energy all across Europe, actually. We compile and analyze the data. And let me stress this point. I mean, we compile and analyze the data in a confidentially way. So no specific data from, let's say, industries or stakeholders are made available. And at the end of this, let's say, mapping exercise, we provide also recommendation on the next step required to progress the implementation set plan. Of course, these recommendations are suggested to the European Commission. The survey is done in two ways. So for the member states, so we get information directly from the member state, but also from the technology developers. These are very important for us. So we need information from the developers, because only with this information we can have a complete picture of the ocean energy sectors. And these are the typical information that we try to get from the member state and from the developers. So there are just information about the general policy, revenue support, but also technical information, like what are the supply chain, what is the levelized cost of energy, also information about financial, that is, I mean, pre-commercial procurement is similar, but also environmental information about the measure for consenting, and any kind of information about what the developers are going to protect, let's say, the environment. And of course, to have a complete picture and an objective picture, or we have defined the sort of metrics, of course, to be just to be sure that all the data are compared in the correct way. So these are the member states that just have applied our survey. So 10 member states, so except for Cyprus, Finland, Norway, and Belgium, all the other member states have participated to this last survey. And if you want to know, these are the organizations that are devoted to respond, that are, I mean, the focal point for the single member state. What we see here is just the complete picture. I mean, this is just a preview because the survey will be published in early May. So this is just a very preliminary information that I can give you during this talk. So we have monitored 127 projects, that are 74 for the wave, 24 for the tidal stream, and 29 for others. For others, we mean, I mean, something that is wave and tidal, but with other application, like, for example, wind offshore or PV offshore and so on. What is important is also to underline that 10 member states reported funding ocean energy projects. And 9 of these member states are, I mean, funding projects that are with the TRL that are even more than 7. 10 member states, so all the member states have a test facilities, and 9 member states have a specific ocean energy policies. So this is good. And 8 member states have an ocean energy dedicated to a budget dedicated to the ocean energy development. So this is a very, let's say, good picture of what is going to happen in Europe. But of course, and just looking at these numbers, we can say that we are in Europe quite well aligned with our, let's say, 11 actions that we have identified in the set plan implementation plan for the ocean energy. So we are quite happy. But be careful because there are also some difficulties. One of these difficulties is just to assessing accurate funding information, and in particular the performance of the technology. In general, the industry partners are reluctant to provide accurate information, and this is, I mean, our main, let's say, issues, because without this information we cannot have a clear picture in Europe, and so we cannot provide the accurate information to the European Commission that at the end will not will be able to put forward the best, let's say, policy for the ocean energy. So this is just to send a message to our industrial partners. So we need this data, and don't be careful, because we don't use any, we don't send around any, let's say, confidential data. Everything is treated in a very, let's say, in an aggregate way. So let me just finish saying that we are quite in line with our, let's say, 11 actions. And just to give you an information, one of our action identified was just the need in Europe of a pre-commercial procurement action. And this is what now we have in Europe. Now it is running this Europe Wave project that is exactly a pre-commercial procurement program for the wave energy. So this is just to let you know that what we monitor at European level at the end can be transformed in something that is useful for the ocean energy sector. And let me just finish with the last communication from the Commission about the strategy to harness the potential of offshore renewable energy. As you know, the targets are quite challenging. So the European Commission is looking for 1 megawatt of energy installed capacity by 2025 and around 1 gigawatt by 2030. So we need to speed up as much as possible our sector to meet these very challenging targets. And finally, we need also your information to be more in line with the, let's say, European policy, and most importantly, with the next European policies. And that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne Maria. Indeed, it's thanks for highlighting really the fact that this information that the set plan group is gathering will then eventually be transformed into those policies that will drive in part the sector forward as well. So thank you. We will now move on to the next speaker, who is Patrick Muller from Core Power Ocean. So he will share their experience on this topic. I'll just give the presenter rights to Patrick.
Thanks a lot for that, Lotta. Just seeing that it's just hopefully popping up.
Just a second. I'm still trying to make presenter. There you go. Now you should be able to share your screen.
Thanks a lot. And there I am hopefully shared as well.
Yes, perfect.
Thanks a lot. So my name is Patrick Muller. I'm CEO and co-founder of Core Power Ocean. So we are a developer of a new type of high efficiency wave energy converters. And I'll give you our view of how we are working to share data. And we're doing our very best to be transparent and provide very detailed information, both to our internal investors, equity investors, but also public investors, like what we just heard from Gian Maria. And just short background on ourselves. So we are a equipment developer, an OEM. We've been in the business since 2010. We are headquartered in Sweden and have offices in Norway, Scotland, and growing quite a bit in Portugal these days. We've been improving our technology and our metrics in a step-by-step approach since day one. And that has rebuilt, I think, quite a bit of trust in big utilities and project developers. Today, we're working with EDP in our demonstration in Portugal, our half-scale demonstration in Scotland we did with Iberdrola. Simply Blue Energy is developing a commercial farm based on our technology. And until today, we've been able to secure a bit more than 50 million euros in funding, a bit more than 20 from private investors and equity investors, and the remaining from grants and public support, both from Sweden, from InnoEnergy, from the Commission, from Portugal, and from Scotland. So we're very broadly backed across Europe, which we're very happy for. And I do think one part of that is that we've been very transparent with data all the time through our developments. So in CoPower, since we started small. We did a lot of tank testing, benchtop testing. We follow this 5-stage product verification approach from day one, from the beginning, proposed by Equimar and other European projects that later on now is a standard suggested by ETIP Ocean and the IEA, OES, and so on. So we're currently in stage 4, demonstrating our first commercial scale single device equipment. And this one is going through dry testing through this year and getting installed in the ocean in Portugal late this year. And then we're going to do one cycle of learning, build another 3 devices, get an array installed of 4 devices in stage 5, and on that achieve type certification to achieve a fully bankable product that we're ready to start shipping to customers by 2024. So that's what we're up to, gathering all the data, proving all the points to be able to give warranties and provide a bankable product to our customers by 2024. And we have been doing that testing very stepwise. And now we are then in the last phase. We are working on the Goçadora site in Portugal, the same site where EDP and Principal Power brought the wind float technology to demonstration. And that's where we're now installing our wave energy converters in CoPower. And we also built out our on-land base in Portugal, just north of that in Viana do Castelo. I would say in the end, the product that we are proving by our data collection and our product demonstration program is clusters of 10 megawatt plus, where we are supplying the wave energy converters themselves, the electrical connectivity, a floating collection hub that collects the power from the devices of a cluster, so that we can deliver power with a standardized interface, both for data communication and power, which is plug and play with offshore wind. And in this picture, you see an illustration of a potential combination between floating wind turbines and wave energy converters. But getting into the data sharing more specifically, so we've been following this 5-stage development approach with a methodology from day one. So we started small scale, did a lot of tank testing, benchtop prototype testing in stage 1 and in stage 2, and then in stage 3 we built our first half-scale fully integrated device that we demonstrated in EMEC, and now we're in stage 4 and 5, commercial scale equipment, first a single one and then a pilot array of 4 devices. And in all those stages we've captured very detailed information on all the technical aspects of the technology. How well have we been able to survive the storms? Improving survivability and reliability always comes on the top of our list. And then second to that, performance. How much of the waves can we capture? How much can we convert? Where are the efficiencies? How are the losses? And then about maintainability. How do we service, install, and keep these devices in a high availability? And then, of course, proving the manufacturability, the supply chain. How can we scale that down? And in the end, building based on all those detailed data points, which are quite technical, coming to cost of electricity and the project finance models for our customers who will then own and operate the wave farms. So it's all tied together from very granular data, which we've been capturing. And I think this is the method today followed by Wave Energy Scotland and many other funders, which we strongly think is a good idea to take it step by step, improve performance, improve reliability on small scale, and then start scaling once you have the performance that will yield a competitive cost of electricity and a business case in the end. And all the collection of data we are doing to support our product roadmap. So we have a very detailed target for like the availability, the performance, the capacity factors, how much AEP we deliver per megawatt installed in each generation of the product from once we start getting the first commercial grade equipment into the market by 2024, and then expect certain increases in availability, in asset life, and over time, of course, when the technology goes to be more and more well proven, that the cost of capital is being reduced and so on. I'm happy to say that we have a cost curve which is more aggressive than the set plan that we heard about before. So assuming that we keep hitting our data points, which we have been doing so far, we will be able to deliver a cost of electricity which comes below the set plan targets for 2030, for instance. So that's what we are here to prove. We still have points to prove on that curve, of course, and that's what we're working hard to do. So when we are interacting with investors, private and public ones, usually we share very detailed information. When it comes to LCOE and specific technical data, we've been sharing a lot through the various surveys conducted by European activities and, of course, by Ocean Energy Europe. So we always make sure to submit our details into these surveys. Directly towards investors, we're usually preparing data rooms, and in such an example could include information such as the business plan, customer agreements, the financials that we're projecting in the next 10 to 15 years to come, how we have our IP portfolio, grid balancing, the track record, and the technical details that we have gathered and measured up to date, and etc. And that all ties into a big, usually commercial and technical due diligence, which is performed by investors before coming up to a investment decision. And if we talk specifically about product details and technical verification, usually we're dividing that into all the metrics that we just looked at on the previous page, showing how the historical machines have been performing, showing all the details and all the reports, how it has been measured in dry testing, first on land and then in ocean testing once we've deployed it. And of course, which metrics we're now chasing to deliver in the ongoing product verification programs until we are in the business with a bankable product by 2024. And in a similar way, on the legal side, usually investors want to go deep into checking all the legal and contractual statuses of a company. So we have legal data rooms for legal due diligence, where we share all the details of the shareholding and the more corporate documents and so on of the company. So these data rooms we keep always updated and make available to investors when they want to investigate our various statuses. And a big point, of course, for data is also to use third-party validation. So in CoPower, we're working closely with DNV on product certification. And here we are aiming to achieve prototype certification on the C4 and type certification on the C5 equipment. And we're also working together with EMEC and WAVEC to do independent performance assessments according to the IEC standards. And we hope to make that information available as well, how the devices have performed in stage 4 and 5 based on the IEC standard. So in the end, of course, what our investors want to see and what our customers want to see is exactly how much can we guarantee that these equipments will deliver in power output in each sea state, and how much availability will the equipment have? How many hours per year will it be operational, and how many hours do we have to assume it's going to be in standstill? And these are the two main things to make wave energy projects a financial investment rather than a technology venture. And we hope to have enough data to prove that with more than 8,000 hours of operational data on the C5 machines by 2024. And together with customers, of course, we're doing a lot of project finance calculations to show the profitability of a customer farm. This is just an example. Don't take the specific numbers as a specific piece of input, but of course, calculating with our forecasting of profitability in CoPower, our CapEx and our OpEx, which profitability can our customers achieve when they build wave farms using our technology. So we are having very detailed data exchange with our customers to allow those project finance models to be accurately built. And just to finish off, one customer now developing a pre-commercial project based on our technology is Simply Blue Energy, who's developing the Western Star project on the west coast of Ireland. And there they're aiming to do first 5 megawatt deployment and then step that up to 30 megawatt as a stepping stone for larger multi-100 megawatts of commercial projects. So we see very exciting times with some of the first customers actually starting to build commercial developments of projects based on all the data that we've been able to share so far and what we're currently collecting. Thanks for that.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for that very detailed outlook on your case. I will move on to the next speaker, and we will take questions in the end, so we don't lose too much time on that. So I will just give the floor next to Damien Bettles from DP Energy. He's the regional manager for North America. So I'm giving you the presenter right now. Damien, you should be able to share your screen.
Thank you, Lotte. I'll just try now.
Great. And while you get your slides up, I just wanted to mention that feel free to write your questions in the questions box. We still have some time to take those to the speakers in the end. Okay, Damien, the floor is yours.
Good morning. So as Lotte said, I'm the regional manager for DP Energy in Canada. DP Energy is a project developer, so we focus solely on renewable energy. We've developed onshore and offshore wind, tidal, solar PV, and storage technology projects. We operate in the UK and Ireland, Canada, and Australia currently, and we've been doing that for the last 25 years. We've consented in excess of 1 gigawatt of energy projects. 400 megawatts of those are already constructed and operational, and we've got a further 4 gigawatts of project under development. That includes our recent collaboration with Iberdrola for offshore wind in Ireland. In terms of the tidal projects, we've got 9 megawatts in the Ishkatapa project in Nova Scotia in Canada, which is the project I'll be talking about today, and the 100 megawatt Fairhead tidal project in Northern Ireland. So the Ishkatapa project is a 9 megawatt tidal array at the fourth site in the Bay of Fundy. It's got a $530 per megawatt hour fit, 15-year fit. We've received $29.75 million of NECAN Emerging Renewable Power Plant grant funding for that project. And we're partnering with Andritz for the technology supply of 6 of their Mark I turbines. Now, the project will be built out in 3 phases due to regulatory requirements in the Bay of Fundy. And the grid infrastructure is built and constructed, and the COD for phase 1 is targeted for Q3 of 2023. So in terms of how we got into the project, as a project developer, we will look primarily at the large-scale market opportunity for that technology, and then a demonstrated scalable technology. So we typically will be investing in a project at the early commercial array stage. So it's not single device or prototype demonstration. And then that technology must have a plausible roadmap to being cost competitive with other renewables. And those are the key areas of information sharing that get us invested in a project to begin with. And then as a project developer, we will be raising project finance ourselves, usually by a mixture of equity and ideally debt into the project. And that really drives the information requirements that we have based on the perceived risk in the project and the ability to manage that risk. So in terms of the tidal project, regulatory risk, there are operational parameters that we have to be able to monitor and report on in order to continue to operate the project. The technology risk, there are comparatively limited operating hours within the technology. And then, the operational risk, there's limited vessel availability and supply, and even the smallest failure on a turbine that requires a recovery is a substantial financial impact on the project. And then there's the financial risk of the revenue support at $530 a megawatt hour, 50% plus capacity factor. Any downtime is an extremely high impact in terms of the financial model. And then the commercial risk, typically a lot of these technologies are developed by small and medium enterprises that they have limited capability to put in place sizable warranties, guarantees, liquidated damages, and then there's the insurance availability to cover those risks. So in terms of the remainder of these slides, really to focus on the technology risk, because with the exception of the regulatory risk, the other three are triggered by something happening unexpected in the technology element of the project. And when we talk about the technology risk, for us, it's the full device through to the metering point. So the turbine, the substructure, the cable management system, connectors, the subsea cabling, switchgear, conditioning and control equipment. So it's anything that has the potential to impact on the revenue. And really, where there's been earlier demonstrations of the technology, whether it be a prototype or a pilot array or a full-scale prototype demonstration, what we're looking for is project level performance data of actual versus predicted. And to drill into that a bit further, I mean, the key information that we need to see as a developer would be from the engineering side, the detailed specifications, the operating parameters of the device, the principal design loading and fatigue calculations, and we would get that independently reviewed by an owner's engineer that we would appoint for the project. As noted earlier, third-party certification is also key. In terms of performance, we would need to see the operational parameters, power curve, predicted yield analysis, the availability probability, Monte Carlo analysis of the availability calculation. And then the supply chain. Key component suppliers, we'd need to know who they were and the lead time for key components, as well as third-party IP reliance. And that's really from a project risk in the supply chain. Operational data for any of the early demonstrations, so actual versus predicted performance, operation reports, failure analysis and remedies, and then the maintenance and inspection reports. And that's particularly where there's been a major maintenance interval achieved to see, again, it's actual versus predicted. And finally, marine operations, installation and retrieval reports and lessons learned of any previous deployments. And like I said, on the environmental monitoring side, that's one of the key areas that we're looking at currently for our project in Canada. And any available data and reports of the impacts that these devices have and is publicly available. So I guess in summary, what we really need to see is an open book approach. It's collaboration between all of the project parties. And I think what we've experienced, and certainly with Andritz and our project supply chain, is that's quite easy to achieve vertically within a project. Much more of a challenge across projects with different developers to share that overall experience. And I think that's probably one of the key challenges that we're still seeing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Damien, for your experiences. Thank you. We have now 15 minutes for questions and answers. So before I go to the participants' questions, I just wanted to maybe turn to Jose Luis and ask you if you had any thoughts coming from these presentations or any questions to the panelists.
Yes, I was. Thank you, Lotta, for giving me this opportunity, because there is a question that you mentioned at the beginning about how to keep the balance between intellectual property and sharing information. Patrick, your presentation was very, very good. For me, was very interesting and give some key indication. But in your case, that you are a technology developer, how you keep this balance? Because of course you have to keep your competitiveness of your product, so you cannot show everything. So you have to keep this balance. So how do you manage this? This is my only question. I think is, and you mentioned at the beginning a lot. It's not my question. It's also a question that we have received from many people.
I mean, on a high level, I would say we're trying to be as open as we just can. If we cannot speak about our technology, it's very unlikely that people can actually buy it. So we need to be quite open. There are certain pieces that we need to keep close to our chest. Certain parts we patent. And of course, after we've patented it, then we can speak about them. Certain parts we keep as trade secrets, but it's quite small overall bits. I would say the biggest challenge for ocean energy right now is not that we have such a fierce competition between various developers. The biggest challenge is just to prove working technologies and get a number of successful developers out there. So we are quite collaborative and trying to be as open as we just can on that.
Thank you. Damien, would you like to?
Thank you.
Thanks. Would you like to comment on that? If not, I just wanted to ask you one question as well. What you said just in the end of your presentation that the cross-project collaboration seems to be lacking. How do you see that this could be then improved? Do you have any ideas on that?
It's difficult. I mean, within a project, you know, with non-disclosure agreements, confidentiality agreements, and the fact that generally within the project supply chain there isn't competition. You know, we're a project developer, not a technology provider. So that's achievable, but there are commercial sensitivities to projects and project developer advantage that is difficult, you know, to break down the barrier of sharing that project level information. And I think, you know, there's probably not an easy way around that, but some of the information sharing that's potentially anonymized, you know, in terms of a project data sharing platform, I think that's probably one way of getting around that.
Thank you. I'm now looking at the participants' questions here. I see one for Patrick. Saying very impressive approach regarding the third certification and performance assessments. How does CorePower value GNV IEC renewable energy approaches and demands by investors? Patrick, if you could please take that.
Once again, the question, how do we value?
The GNV and IEC renewable energy approaches and demands by investors.
I think it builds a lot of confidence with investors in general that there are third parties looking at the data saying this is not something we just dreamed up ourselves. It was actually measured by qualified, calibrated equipment in these specific points, and there were independent third parties that checked the measurements and validated that they were the right ones. And by the way, they were all the calcs and all the data was collected according to standards. And I do think that is extremely helpful to build confidence with investors so that we're not all doing it in our own ways.
Thank you. I still have one question for Gian Maria. I think this was for Gian Maria. So about the set plan work. The question is, how does this work? So set plan map across to the development of wave and tidal energy technical standards being advanced by IEC 62600. So I think this was one of the standardization was one of the tags of the set plan implementation plan. If you want to say a couple of words about that, Gian Maria.
Yeah, actually, we are trying also to find a way to compare the different technologies, because when you ask to developers, for example, let me just give you this example. If you ask to developers what is the TRL of their specific devices, so this is a sort of personal judgment of TRL. So it's difficult then to compare two different technologies if everybody, I mean, feels own, let's say, TRL. So we are trying to develop specific metrics to try to understand from also other answers what is the real, for example, TRL. So this is a big issue for us, but this is what we are trying to do. So there are also specific metrics for each let's say, main questions that can be used to evaluate in a more, let's say, objective way the answers from the developers, but also from the member state.
Thank you. Thanks. I just got a new question. I think we have time for a couple more. Aside from power performance, what other data are investors asking for third-party verification of? I think this goes to Patrick.
Or Damien. I mean, you're also the one requiring this kind of information. But I would say a lot about the reliability of the technology and how, if you have any kinds of failures, how often do they happen, and what is the action taken to correct a certain failure, and the details of your OpEx models. How do you service and maintain, in addition to performance curves in itself? That's key information, of course, as well.
Thank you. And Damien, I'll let you answer that one as well if you want.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's the reliability data that's as important as the power performance itself. For, you know, fatigue calculations, maximum survivability calculations, things like that need to be certified as well.
Thank you. Here's an interesting question. Are there significant differences in the data sharing requirements between private investors and public grant providers? I guess, Patrick, you might have some experience on that.
I'm not sure it's too different. I mean, I think both our private investors and most public investors have an understanding on that there is a need for data sharing. At least the investors we have are not trying to push us to just maintain everything on our own, because everybody are aware that to be successful, we need to have a successful sector. And wind energy wouldn't be successful with just Vestas or Siemens or the other. You need the other ones also. So I don't see a huge difference, I think.
Great. To close the webinar, I just wanted to maybe ask one. This might be a very broad question, but what's if we look into the future, what needs to happen, or will the sector, when the sector is progressing, will the data kind of sharing and being more open become easier, or is that sharing of data needed in order to progress the sector? Is this a chicken and egg, or which one comes first? I don't know if Gian Maria, you want to share some of your thoughts on that?
I can just bring the set planning point of view. Actually, what we have seen in these years is that if we have reliable data about the developments, even from the industry or private companies, this is very good for all the sector. So the policy that European Commission can put on the table is strictly related to the information that we can provide at European level. So from our point of view, for a very, let's say, for the best, let's say, development of the ocean energy sector, we need this data. We need to know this data, because this is the only way also to have a policies. Because if we have a very good devices, but we don't have a European policies behind that are supporting the development of the ocean energy sector, in any case, even a very good developers and device will not have a very, let's say, good future.
Thank you. With that, if any other panelists want to say some closing words, feel free to take the floor. Or if everything was, yeah, Patrick, go ahead.
On that specific point, on data sharing and clarity, I do think when we see more and more technology convergence, the amount of specific solutions and equipment and various types of technologies to be investigated and shared in terms of data will reduce, which probably will increase the general understanding. Today in offshore wind, if you're doing a monopile, everybody know all the fatigue calcs and all the details and all the cost per ton and all the things of a very specific monopile. When we have one or two piling technologies used in all the wave converters, for instance, I think we can get towards the similar thing. And today there's still such a multitude of various solutions being investigated, and that of course makes it harder to have very clear data points as well.
Thank you. Okay, I think we had a very interesting webinar, lots of different points, and got some very good information there. So I hope you all enjoyed this webinar. As I said, the recording will be available, either contact me directly or it will be on our website, egyptocean.eu, next week, hopefully. So I thank our panelists very much. Thanks for coming, and thanks to all of the audience as well. I wish you a very nice day and see you in our next webinar. Bye.
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 Bye.